Last time, you watched faceless channels quietly reach millions of people with no camera and no face. So, if nobody is on the screen, what is your audience actually holding on to? That is the question today. In the last video, you saw something strange. Channels with no host on screen were quietly reaching millions of people. No face, no studio, no morning where someone fixed their hair before hitting record. Just a voice, a story, and a steady flow of value going out week after week. You watched proof that this is happening right now, in 2026, in almost every topic you can name, and you were left with one honest question hanging in the air. If there is no face, then what exactly is the audience holding on to? That is what this video is about, not whether faceless channels work, because you already saw that they do. The real question is deeper and far more useful to you. Why do they work at all? What is the invisible thread that keeps a stranger watching a screen when there is no human face looking back at them? Once you understand that thread, everything about building your channel changes. You stop worrying about the one thing you were told you needed, and you start building the thing that was doing the real work all along. So look at how attention actually works, gently and from the beginning. Imagine a small child at bedtime. The lights are off, the room is dark. A parent sits at the edge of the bed and begins to read a story. The child closes their eyes. The widest Clyde Barton part. With her eyes closed, the child is not looking at anything at all. There is no face to watch. There is no picture on a screen. And yet the child is completely gripped. Their whole body leans into the story. They gasp at the scary part. They smile at the happy part. They beg for one more page. Think about what is happening there. The eyes are shut, so the face of the storyteller is doing nothing. All the magic is traveling through the voice. The warmth in the voice tells the child they are safe. The rise and fall of the sentences tells the child when to worry and when to relax. The little pause before the big moment makes the child hold their breath. Not one bit of that connection needed a face. It needed a voice that cared, a story that moved, and a feeling of being safely held. Your audience is not so different from that child. They just have their eyes open. This is the first thing most creators get backwards. They believe the face is the connection. They think that if people can see you, people will trust you, and if they cannot see you, the bond simply will not form. But that is not how the human brain is built. Long before humans had cameras or screens or even mirrors, they had voices around a fire. For thousands of years, the way people passed on knowledge, warned each other of danger, and felt close to one another was through sound and story in the dark. The face is recent. The voice is ancient. Your audience is running on very old software, and that software was tuned for the voice. Scientists have a name for the bond a viewer feels with someone they have never actually met. They call it a parasocial relationship. It sounds complicated, so here it is plainly. A parasocial relationship is a one-sided friendship. You feel like you know the person on the other end, even though they have no idea you exist. You have felt this yourself. There's probably a voice you listen to often, a narrator or a host, and if you pass them on the street, you would feel a jolt of recognition, almost like seeing an old friend. They do not know you at all, but your brain has quietly filed them under the word friend. That is a parasocial bond, and it is one of the strongest forces on the internet. Now here's the part that matters for you. Researchers who study podcasts have found that this feeling of friendship forms powerfully through audio alone. When someone speaks into your ears week after week in a calm and consistent voice, your brain begins to treat that voice the way it treats a person you actually know. There is a real study on parasocial relationships in podcasts that maps how digital trust and engagement grow purely from listening. No faces involved. The listener never sees the host. And still the bond forms deep and durable because the voice is arriving in the most intimate place there is, right inside your head. Stay with that idea because it is easy to miss how strange and beautiful it is. When you watch a face on a screen, that face is out there, in front of you, at a distance. But when you hear a voice through earphones, it is not out there at all. It is inside. It feels like it is coming from within your own thoughts. This is why so many people listen to narration while they fall asleep, while they walk, while they cook, while they are alone. The voice keeps them company in a way a face never could. A face demands that you sit still and look. A voice can travel with you everywhere you go. Which of those sounds more like real friendship to you? There is science under this too, and it is worth understanding simply. When researchers study voices, they find that the sound of a voice carries a huge amount of information about whether you can trust the speaker. The warmth, the steadiness, the pace, the tiny musical rise and fall called intonation. A systematic review of voice acoustics found that these qualities shape how trustworthy a speaker feels, sometimes before a single word is fully understood. Your brain is listening beneath the words. It is asking one quiet question all the time. Does this voice feel safe? When the answer is yes, The walls come down and the message walks right in. Here is a small example that makes this vivid. Think about a phone call from someone you love. You cannot see them at all, and yet within a few seconds you know if something is wrong. You hear the tiredness, you hear the smile they are hiding. You hear the worry underneath the cheerful words. All of that arrives through sound alone, faster than any face could tell you. Your ears are astonishing instruments for reading a human heart. When you build a channel around a voice, you are speaking directly to that instrument. You are using the exact same channel a person uses to comfort a friend in the dark. Notice what is not on that list. The list of trust signals in the voice does not include a face. It does not include good lighting. It does not include whether the creator is handsome or nervous or having a bad skin day. All of that is happening on a completely different channel, the visual one, and it turns out the visual channel is not where deep trust is built. Trust is built in the sound. This should feel like enormous relief to you. The thing you were most afraid of, showing your face, was never the thing carrying the connection in the first place. Now go one step further, because this is where it becomes truly freeing. A face does not just fail to help. Very often, a face actively gets in the way of your message. Think about how much attention a human face demands. When a face is on screen, your eyes are pulled to it automatically. You watch the mouth move. You read the expression. You notice the eyes, the hair, the little movements. Human beings are wired to stare at faces. It is one of the very first things a baby learns to do. So when you put a face on screen, a large slice of the viewer's attention rushes to the face and away from the thing you are actually trying to say. Picture a teacher standing at the front of a class, explaining something genuinely useful. Now imagine that teacher is also juggling 3 bright balls the entire time. Would the students remember the lesson, or would they remember the juggling? The face can become the juggling. It is fascinating to look at, so it steals the spotlight from the message. On a faceless channel, there is no juggling. There is nothing competing for the viewer's eyes except the ideas themselves, shown clearly on screen, while the voice carries the meaning. The attention is not split. It all flows to the point. That is not a weakness of faceless content. That is its secret strength. Make sure this lands because it goes against everything you have been told. You were told that showing your face makes you relatable. And there is a small truth in that for some creators in some formats. But relatable and memorable are not the same thing. People can find your face pleasant and still forget every word you said. What you actually want is not for people to look at you. What you want is for people to feel something, understand something, and come back for more. And feeling, understanding, and coming back are all driven by the voice and the value, not by the pixels of a face. There is even more to this. When you remove your face, you also remove a quiet source of judgment. A face invites comparison. Viewers, without meaning to, size up appearance, age, style, background, all the surface things that have nothing to do with whether your ideas are good. Strip the face away, and something honest happens. The audience can only judge you on what you actually offer. The clarity of your thinking, the usefulness of your advice, the warmth of your voice. You are no longer being rated on how you look. You are being valued for what you know. For a lot of brilliant people who freeze up in front of a camera, that is not a limitation at all. It is liberation. You might wonder whether a warm voice really matters that much, or whether people simply want the information and nothing else. Researchers tested something close to this question with audiobooks. They compared stories read by a human voice against the same stories read by a synthetic, robotic voice, and they measured how listeners responded. The human voice won on the thing that counts most. It created a deeper sense of emotional closeness, an intimacy the flat robotic voice could not reach. The words were identical, only the warmth of the delivery changed, and that warmth was the whole difference between a listener who felt held and a listener who felt nothing. This is your quiet advantage. Not just any sound, but a voice that carries genuine feeling is what turns a passing viewer into someone who comes back tomorrow. And consistency deepens it further. Think about how you recognize a close friend the instant they say hello on the phone, before they've even given their name. That recognition was built by repetition. You have heard that voice so many times that it lives in your memory like a familiar room. Your channel voice works the same way. The first time a new viewer hears it, it is just a pleasant sound. By the 10th time, it is a companion. By the 50th time, it is part of their week, a voice they trust and look forward to, the way you look forward to a friend's call. A face changes with lighting, mood, and age. A voice, kept steady and warm, becomes a constant your audience can lean on. That constancy is the foundation of loyalty, and loyalty is what a channel is truly made of. So what is the audience really holding on to, if not the face? By now, the answer should be forming clearly in your mind. They are holding on to 3 things. They are holding on to the voice, the sound that feels safe and familiar and close. They are holding on to the story, the way you carry them from a question to an answer, from tension to relief. And they are holding on to the value, the genuine feeling that they walk away a little wiser than before. Voice, story, value. That is the rope your viewer grips. The face was never the rope. At best, it was a decoration tied to one end. Now for the twist, and it is the kind of twist that reorganizes how you see this whole game. You would assume that the creators winning right now are the ones with the most magnetic on-screen presence, the confident performers, the ones who light up a lens. But look closely at who is quietly reaching millions in 2026, and you will notice something surprising. A striking number of them stopped performing for the camera entirely. They turned the camera off. They stopped worrying about their face, their gestures, their nervous hands. And the moment they stopped performing, the message got clearer, and the audience got bigger. Why would removing the performer make the performance better? Because a face on camera tempts a creator to perform rather than to teach. You start thinking about how you look, whether you seem confident, what to do with your hands. That self-consciousness leaks into the work, and audiences can feel it. It creates a faint distance, a sense that someone is putting on a show. Take the camera away, and that pressure vanishes. What is left is the pure signal. A clear voice, saying something true, with nothing to prove and nothing to hide behind. Audiences are extraordinarily good at feeling the difference between a performance and a genuine act of sharing. And they lean toward the genuine every time. This is the modern mirror of that child at bedtime. The most successful faceless creators have simply rediscovered what the bedtime storyteller always knew. You do not need to be seen to be felt. You need a voice that cares, a story that moves, and something real to give. That is the entire recipe, and it is thousands of years old. All that has changed is the fire. The fire used to be logs in a cave. Now the fire is a screen glowing in someone's hand on a train, in a kitchen, in a dark bedroom just before sleep. But the human on the other side is exactly the same, leaning in, listening, waiting to feel safe, and to learn something worth knowing. So here's what this means for you, today, right now. The barrier you thought was standing between you and a channel that grows was never really there. You do not need to be brave enough to show your face. You do not need to be photogenic or comfortable on camera or willing to perform. You need to understand that the connection your audience craves has always traveled through the voice and the value, and to build with that truth instead of against it. The face was optional the whole time. The voice is where the real channel lives, and that is exactly where you are going next. Your audience never needed your face. They needed a voice that cared, and something real worth giving. Subscribe so you never miss a step as this faceless channel quietly comes together one piece at a time. Next, in The Voice is the Whole channel, you will see why the voice alone becomes your entire brand.